Hi, welcome to day 10 of my 30 days Python series. Today we'll be learning file handling in Python. We will see how to read text file, how to read CSV file, how to write CSV file, how to write text file, how to read JSON file, and we will also learn exception handling. So let's start the video. So first we will see how to read a text file. So first of all, you need to make sure that you are on the right directory. So for that you can go to terminal and you can click new terminal, and that's going to open your terminal. So from here just write something called pwd. That's going to show your present working directory. So for me, it's, you can see in this folder which is called 30 days Python. So for you, if in case it is not this folder, make sure that you are on the right directory. You can go through the video 1 to set up Windows, and you can create a folders where you can create a virtual environment. And once that is done, then in this folder you can create a different folders where you can keep your file. Okay, so for me, you can see my file is here, which is in my directory, which is 30 days Python. In this directory I have like different folders. In these folders I have the files. Okay, so for example, I have in this folders I have a file which is called this one, maybe something like this one, example txt, or test test txt. So some files in this folders, right? So if in case I have the file in these folders, I can simply type something called ls. That's going to show me all the available folders you can see in my this main directory, which is called 30 days Python series. Now if I want to access any of these files, okay, in this folders, I can simply write. Okay, so let's go ahead and see that what if in case we want to access any files which is in this directory, which is in this folders. We can simply go ahead and write the file name without giving the path, because it's the relative path. Okay, so by default this Jupyter notebook must be in the same folder. That means if in case your Jupyter notebook is in the same folder, and let's say for me my Jupyter notebook is in this folders, you can see it here, which is called d10. If I have the file in this folders, I don't have to define the path. I can just define this name. Okay, and everything is in my this directory, which is called 30 days Python series. In this directory I have a folder which is called day10. In this day10 I have the Jupyter notebook. So make sure that your Jupyter notebook in the same folder also where you have the file which you are trying to access. Okay, so let's see what are the different operations we will perform today. Okay, so first we will see something called open. So with open we can read file, we can write file, we can append file. So we'll see all three functions. You can see it here. So reading and writing files in Python, you can read file using the built-in open functions. You don't have to need any, you don't need any libraries or any other packages. It's a built-in inbuilt functions of Python. So you can simply say open, and it takes three arguments, which is called R, W, and A. So we will see one by one. Let's first see what this open does. So if you just write open question mark, and you will see explanations regarding it. Okay, you can see open a file and return stream. Okay, raise error upon failures. If in case there's a failure, let's say the path is not defined, you'll be getting error. Okay, now here the thing is that you need give a file name, mode, which is going to be R. We have in the mode we have R, W, and A. A means append, R means read, and W means write. Okay, we will see all of these three. And then we have like this. If you want to read, you can read through all this. So basically you have three options. One is called A. A is going to append. Let's say if you have already a file, it's going to add whatever you are writing extra. Okay, so that's going to append the new file. And if you do it right, if you do it R, so that's going to read the file. If you do W, it's going to write the file. We will see all of this. Okay, so let's go ahead and first start with the file. Okay, so I think in this folders, if you see in this day10 folders, I have a file which is called this one, which is called test txt. Okay, so let's see what I have here. So in this test txt, I have something called, this is a test, right? So let's see, maybe this one, which is called example txt. So I have some informations. It's a simple text file. You can see example txt. So let's see, we will try to read the information from this file, which is called example txt. Okay, so for that, what you can do is that we can go ahead and write something called open, and open takes the file path or the file name if in case you are in the same directory, and then it asks for the mode. It's either R or either W or either A. Okay, so the file name that I am trying to access, which is called example.txt. so I would just write simple inside the quotes. Inside the quotes I just need to write example.txt. You can see by default it is coming. Now I will just need to give a comma, and here I need to define the mode. Either it's R if I am trying to read it, if I am trying to write it, then I would need to say W. If I try to append it, it's going to be A. So let's first see the R. Now once you say the R, you can just simply go ahead and say read. We're trying to read. Okay, we're trying to read everything. Now if I execute it, it's going to read the line, read the file. You can see it here. So in this file we have something called hello world and welcome file handling Python. Okay, so we have some information. So you can see it here, 2 lines. So you are getting it here in the results. Okay, If you want in proper format, so what you can do is that you can go ahead and print it. Okay, you can go ahead and say print this. Okay, now you can see you have this information in proper format. Okay, in Python, if you open a file, you need to close it. So for that we use this approach, which is called with. Okay, so with is going to take care of closing the file once you open it. So for that, what you need to do is that you can go ahead and say that with, and same thing you will say, which is called open file, and we can simply go ahead and say with open file, and we can give it a name called as a file. Okay, now why I'm giving this name, so that means in this name, this whatever the file is going to open, it's going to assign in this name. Now what you need to do is that we can go ahead and here is say that file dot read, and that's going to read the file, right? That's going to read the file. Now you can directly print it, or you can save it in a variable. So you can say, let's save it in a variable called content, and inside content we're storing which is file dot read. So whatever we're going to read, that's storing in this content. Now you can just print this content. Okay, so you can go ahead and say print the content, so you will be getting the file. Now we missed here colon, you need to use this colon sign here, and this must be inside it. Okay, inside this with, because this with is going to take care of the file closing. Okay, information that you are printing from this file, they must be inside this with clause, because with this with is going to take care of the closing the file. Now if you run it, you see I am getting both the line. Okay, now if you only want to read one line, so for that you can just say here something called read line, and you can simply say like this. Now you can see it is printing one line. Okay, if you need one line, then you can simply say read line. That's going to only read one line from this that file, which is called example, that is txt. So this is a read, right? So we are here reading the file. Now I don't have to close it, right? Because if you don't close it, that is going to take up your space from the computer, right? So make sure that when you are opening file, if you are opening manually like this way, then you need to close it. Okay, so when you open a file like this, okay, so you just need to make sure that you are closing the file manually like this, which is called close, and inside this you can just give this parenthesis. That's how you will need to close it, if in case you're not using this with clause. If you're using with clause, you don't have to close it, it's going to taken care by this with clause. Okay, now let's see how to write files. Okay, now if you want to see writing files, so writing file is same as like a read file, but here we will write files, right? Let's say we are creating a new file. Now here if you see, I'm saying with open an example 2.txt, and I'm saying w, and I'm saying as file. So same as like this way, but if in case you don't want to do it this way, let me show you. So you can go ahead and say open. So open, it will take a file name. So let's say we are trying to create a file, we're trying to write a file which doesn't exist at the moment. So let's say we would go ahead and say that maybe a file called day 10, okay, test.txt. okay, so let's say this is the file. Let's give it simple called d10.text. okay, so this is the file we're trying to write a file. Write means something else, right? Read means you're reading the file, write means you're writing a file. So if this file doesn't exist already, you can see there is no file, something called d10.txt. so that means it is going to create a file. Okay, so we are creating a file called text file, and here you just need to mode, you need to define it something called w. Okay, now it's going to create a file. So if I execute it, it's going to create a file. Okay, now here you just need to say something called write, and inside write you would want to add something, right? If in case you just execute this, it's going to create a blank empty file. I can show you, right? So you can see here it has created something called d10.txt, but this file doesn't have any information at the moment, right? But we want to ensure that the file that we are creating, which is this one, we want to write something. So for that you can simply go ahead and say dot write. Okay, now inside it you can put your string, so whatever you want to write. If in case you want to write in 2 lines, then you need to ensure that you are using new line functions here. So let's say I'm going to write something called this is day 10 Python, and I want in the new line, maybe in the new line I want something called thank you for subscribing. Okay, and I would add one more new line, so I would go ahead and say new line and see you tomorrow. Okay, so 3 lines I have added, right? So first line, this new line, then second line, this is new line. Now after this I just need to make sure there is no space, otherwise it's going to add some space. Okay, now let's see. Okay, now if I run it, it has created a file. So if you want to see this time, we can just go ahead and see this file. You see it has created a file, but seems like it did not create a new line. So for that I need to check if there is a mistakes. So we can go ahead and do this way as well. So okay, so here I need to say instead of this it's \n, right? Not n \. So let's now you see it has seems to be created file with 70 characters. Now if you want to check, this is the file which is day10.txt. You see we have 3 lines here, right? Now let's say if I want to read the line, so it's going to be same again. So if you want to read the line, you can simply go ahead and say add a cell here, and we can go ahead and say that open, and the file name is called day10txt. Okay, and we can just give a comma, and what you need is that read, because we're trying to read, and you can just say read. Okay, now if you execute it, it's going to read the line. If you want to see a nice way, so you can just go and say print, and inside it you can define it. Okay, you see it's reading the file. Okay, now what if you don't have this file in this folders? Let's say if you have the file in different folders, then here you can give the path of that file. Okay, and then you would just need to define a read. So let's first close this file. So to close this file, I would just need to say open, and here I would just go and say that dot close. Okay, so that's going to take care of closing the file, because closing file is very important. All right, now let's go ahead and say, let's say we have some file which is here maybe in the desktop, and I will try to access one of the file. Okay, so let's create a dummy file. So I'm just going to use terminal. So I would just create a dummy file in the desktop. Okay, I would say touch something called desktop.txt. Okay, you see I have created a file which is this one. Now I can just open this file called nano desktop.txt. let's open the file and let's write something. Okay, this is a test file in desktop. Okay, this is day 10 of 30 days Python series. Okay, this is line 3. Okay, let's just enter some line. Okay, I'm just going to save it. Now you don't have to learn it. Okay, so I would just save it. Why? Now I have created a file. If you see here, that's the file is called desktop.txt. if you want to check it, you see this has 3 lines. Okay, now we want to read this file from here, so you can right click on it, and you can just say press the option. You would see something called copy as a path name. Okay, so this path name, what do we need? Now let's go ahead and let's go to our VS Code, and here let's say I want to read the file that is in desktop. So for that I would just say open, and I need to just give the path, which is this one. This is the path. You can see it's the absolute path, not the relative path. So here I would just need to say what I need is that read, because I want to open it in a read mode, and I would just say read all the content. I would just say print. Okay, now you can see we have the same file. This is a test file in the desktop. This is the day 10 of 30 days Python series. This is line 3. Okay, so this is how we open a file from any locations text file. Okay, now let's see how to read a CSV file, and then we will see how to write a CSV file. Okay, so first of all, to read a CSV file, you need to import something called CSV, which is a module of Python. So you can see here I'm saying import CSV, and then I'm going to use this with close to open the file and close the file. This is going to take care of closing the file. Okay, now here if you see there is something else. It says open the file name, the read, which is R, and then as a file. So I'm just saving it as a file, and I'm saying colon, and inside the colon I am saying that readers equals CSV reader.file. Okay, so this is mandatory. You need to say csv.reader.file, like this file you're opening in a reader mode. Okay, now then in CSV file there will be multiple rows, right? So we would need to use a for loop to print all those rows, if in case you want to see all those rows. Otherwise you will see something like this. So you can simply use this as well, which is called import CSV, and you can simply go ahead and say open, and in the open you can define the file name, which is called employees.csv, and you can simply go ahead and say dot R. Okay, you can open it in the read mode as well. So for that you will see file something like this. Okay, so this is the file. You can see a it's a very big file. If in case you want to print it, so you can go ahead and say print. Okay, you see the file, but still it's not that much readable. Okay, you can see all the files line by line here, right? So better we open it in a reader mode. Let's first close it. Now let's open in the reader mode. Okay, so for that what we will do is that we are going to say that open, we will use a with clause. So we would say with, and would say open, and we will give this, which is this, and here I would just save it as a file, and I'm going to use again here something called csv dot reader. Okay, and inside I would say file. So this is, I'm going to store it something called reader, a variable, Okay, now in this reader I have all the file, like all the rows. Okay, and I need to print one by one rows, right? So for that I can use a for loop. I can say for a row in this reader. Okay, and we can just print, which is called print row. So simple for loop I'm using to iterate through each of the rows. So I would see each row now in proper format. Okay, you can see first row, then second row, so all it's showing as a list. Okay, all right, now let's see how to write a file. Okay, so let's write a file. So write a file, we just need to use same thing, but the mode is going to be w, and the new line we need to give new line, which is like after one line ends. So we need to define how we want the escape. So escape is that this is called empty. Okay, so empty escape, you can give any escape. Now what I'm talking about I'm going to show you. Okay, so let's execute this. It's going to create a file called data.csv, and I'm saying that writer equals csv.writer. So you need to here use a writer to write the content in this file. Okay, so here you are using this line of code which is saying writer and writer row. So each row, this is going to be first row, this is going to be second row, this is going to be third row. Okay, so if I now execute it, if you see there is a file that is created that's called data.csv. Let's check. Okay, which is this one, data.csv. Okay, so if in case we want to see it, let's go ahead and create a new file. So we can go ahead and say again with. So with is going to take care of closing. So it's a with open, and with open let's give a file name called maybe imp. Okay, dot csv quotes, and I am saying w. So w is the mode, and I would need to set new line, which is mandatory parts, new line, and I would say empty. Okay, so new line, the escape is for the new line. So after one line ends, so the new line I would just say empty. I don't need any sign over there. Okay, I would be using this open here. So I would say with close, and I would say as file. Okay, now I am going to say x equals csv dot writer, and here you just need to give the file name. So our file name is called file. Okay, which is this name. Next I would just say x dot and I'm going to say writer rows. Okay, writer row, that means whatever I would be giving it here, it would be the my first row. So first row, let's say I want to give it as a header. Okay, so let's add a node called adding header. So the header, everything is going to be a list. In a list format you need to add each row. So let's say I want to say that call id, which is the employee id, and then I would be adding call name, and I would be adding call salary. Okay, all right, now let's go ahead and add our second row. So the second, every row you need to say x dot write rows, and you need to in the same format. So next row I want to add 101 is the id. Next I would do one name call maybe same, salary call 25,500. Okay, you need more rows, so x dot writer row, and you would just need to use the same templates. So maybe 102, again this is a int, so I would just say 102, and let's say give a name call maybe Sarah. Let's give a salary call 45,000. Let's add one more, so x dot write rows, and we would just go ahead and keep some values called 10 maybe 4, and let's say dodo, and let's say 2350. Okay, so now we can just execute it. It's going to create a new csv file which is called imp.csv. we don't have any imp.csv, you can see it here. So in this directory, which is in the date 10, so we can just go ahead and execute it. It seems it is created a new csv file, which is this one, which is called imp.csv file. If you want to access it, so again we would be using simple open imp.csv. Okay, we would just need to define the mode, which is called read, and read, and we can print it. Okay, you can see I have all this 4 line, which is the first line is a header, right? So this is the way you read and write the file. Okay, now there is something called append. Okay, if you want to do append, so append is going to add this new record. Let's say I have this file, in this file which is called imp, I already have the file, and I want to add some new records. Okay, so for that I can just go ahead and do a append here. I can just go ahead and say that maybe appending new records. Okay, so for that you just need to, instead of w, you say app, which is A, and you can just define, maybe I want to add not the header obviously, so I want to add some more records, maybe 105, 106, 107, maybe some new name here call maybe Mike, and we would say Smith, we would say John. Okay, now you see I have kind of added some new records. Now if you execute this line, you see now I have some new extra records. So append means adding some other records without truncating whatever you have, without deleting whatever you have. But if you execute in the W mode, it's going to rewrite everything. Okay, it's going to delete the existing record, then it's going to append it. If in case you want, I can show you. Now you will see all this, the earlier record will be gone, you see. Okay, now we have done, which is called truncate, like the rewriting mode. Okay, all right, now let's see how to work with the JSON file, how to read JSON file, how to write into JSON file, how to create a new JSON file. Okay, so now for JSON, working with the JSON file, you need to import a module called JSON, which is a part of Python modules. JSON file has two functions, one is called loads and one is called load. Okay, so here if you see, we'll be using load functions to load the file. Okay, so you need to say again same thing, which is called with open the path, which is, I have the path here also, which is called data.json. I think I have it, yeah, this one, data.json. If you want to see the file, this file is itself is a dict, which is a dictionary, and that has some key and some values. Okay, so here what I would do is that I'm going to load this file, okay, which is called data.json. So you need to say data.json, which is the file path in the read mode, and we're using this open file. Now here you just need to say json.load, okay, of file. So we are using the with clause to ensure that it automatically close it once the job is done. So you can say with, and you can say open again, same as like we had done earlier. So data.json is the file, the mode I want is that read mode. Okay, as a file I'm saving it, and I would just go ahead and kind of say that json dot load. If you want to see the help regarding it, you can see it load a file. Okay, so here if you see here, it takes json dot load, it takes a file path, and there are some, you know, additional arguments are there, which is not mandatory. Okay, so by default it's a read mode. Okay, you can see it here. So let's go ahead and say the data dot load, and I want to give my file, which is the path, or you can see the file. So this is my file, right? So this file is opening in this file name, and that is fine. Next, I would just save it in a variable, maybe something called data. Okay, and I would just print it. So print data. Okay, let's see. So you see now it has printed the file, which is called name, and in this name key I have this value, in this age key I have this value, city I have this value. Okay, now let's see how to write into a JSON file, and if in case the file doesn't exist, it's going to create a file. So we would just say same thing. Okay, here you just need to say open, and the mode should be W instead of R, and you just need to define something called the name and the file, which is this file. I'm going to write this file, and something called indent. So in indent you need to give this 4, that's going to you know, give the indentations. Okay, so you need to say indent, which is 4. Now here you need to define a file like this, which file you are trying to, you know, write into this data.json. Okay, so I'm saying inside this data I'm storing a file. Here I can give any name, so I would say that maybe car, and I would say Ford, maybe age I would say, or maybe model I would say 2024, city Newark, or maybe I would say price. It's a dict, right? So I can save a dict in the JSON. So I would say maybe 25,000. Okay, so I'm storing that inside this data. So this is a dict I'm storing inside this data. Now this information we're going to save in a JSON file. So you just need to say again same thing, which is called open, then data.json, and mode is in W as a file, and you just need to use a new line here, which is called json.dump. So it's going to dump this data into this file, which is called data.json. Okay, so if I just now run it, it has created a new JSON file, which is called data.json, and we can just go ahead and check this file out. So we would just go ahead and say open. That's going to be again the same, we have already done that, right? So this one we can run it. You see, now I'm having different informations. Okay, now let's see our last topic, which is going to be exception handling. So while loading a file, let's see if you're getting errors, so how to handle those, right? So that's called exception handling. So we'll be using something called try except block. Now in except you can give different value error. So we can give file not found error, so that's going to give error if in case the file doesn't exist. Okay, so let's say, and I also have one more exception which is called except IO error. So this IO error is going to give any error which is not regarding the file error, not regarding the file path error. So I have some example here. If I just execute it, you see it's saying an error occurred while reading the file. So this is, I'm getting this one. Okay, so while reading this file I am having the error because I have given which is called incorrect mode, which is called X. Okay, if I just give it right mode, maybe R, I'm getting the file, right? It's kind of working. But if I just give you maybe something called X, so I'll be getting this error. Right now this file is path is correct. If you see, we do have a file in this folder which is called maybe example.txt. now if I just give it some other name, random name, which the file doesn't exist, and also I'm mode is giving right. Okay, the right mode I'm giving it here. If I now execute it, I am getting that file is not found. Okay, so using this except I am reading the file. Okay, which is using this except I am kind of printing this error which is called file not found error. And then I have which is called IOX. Now using the second except I am kind of capturing if in case it's not the file, it's with something else, so then we would debug our code and we will see. Okay, so this we would do using something called try. Okay, try, and then we can use something called except block, try except, and in here you can just say use file not found, this one. Okay, so file not found is one of the except block. You can use this one, or you can use one more except, and here you can use just IO error, which is called IO error. Okay, so usually IO error is part of Python modules. Now here this file not found is going to only give the error if in case the file actually the path is not exist or the file doesn't exist. Okay, so this can work for any data types. Let's say we want to read a file which is maybe this one, which is called test.txt. Okay, so I'm going to say that maybe open. Okay, and I'm going to say that open the file called test.txt. Okay, in the mode I don't give the right mode. Instead of maybe R or W, I give something called TS. Okay, and here I am defining it. Right now I would just use a open close here, so I'm going to say, and I would say mode is like something like this. Okay, as file, let's say store that in something called content, and here I'm going to simply say that which is called file dot read. Right, we're reading the file, and then we're printing the results. Okay, printing what, this content. Okay, so this is going to only execute in the try block, so I'm putting it in the try block. It's only going to execute if everything is correct. Okay, if something is wrong in this 3 line of code, then I have to accept block. So one is this accept block, one is this accept block. So in this accept block I can give something. So file not found error is one of the accept block, where it is going to give us error if in case I am putting incorrect file path. Okay, so let's say I can print any message whatever I want to print here. So I can go ahead and say that what I want to print something like this. Okay, file not found, please enter correct file path. Okay, again you can print any message whatever you want to show, but this is only going to print if in case there is an issue with the file path. Okay, very important, this value error message that you see it here. Second we have which is IO error. Now this is going to give the error if in case there is any issue with this mode. Okay, so we can write a message called print. Okay, please check reading mode or rest of the code. Okay, now if I just run it, so let's change it to something called X. You can say I'm getting which is called please check reading or rest of the code is correct. Okay, so we have some mistake here, right? If I just change it to R, it seems works smoothly fine. Okay, we get the file informations, but if I just give it this file incorrect, so this is going to execute. Okay, now I want to show you something. Even if you don't want to show any message, you can just print something called pass here. Instead of writing a message, you can pass it. So pass is a kind of the keyboard which is going to simply pass this statement. You will not see anything, see empty. So You can either write a message or you can write pass, because you cannot just keep it empty. If in case you want to keep it empty, you need to write something called pass. Okay, all right, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching the video till the end. I hope you have learned something new concept today. If yes, do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Have a good day. Take care. Bye bye.